Hello and welcome to the Nordic Takedown podcast. We are back. It is episode 70 and we are days away from the Legends of the Force pre-release, where we can have these beautiful, wonderful new pieces of cardboard in our hands. We can smell them. We get that new open packet smell, the feeling of that fresh ink on our fingers, and just the new cards, new surprises, possibilities of new showcase cards. Like, I am looking forward to this, and so are my co-hosts with me this evening, Jonah and Victor. How are you both doing?
Hey, good to be here. Really excited to play with more players. Spoiler,
Yeah.
I've already got my hands on these cards, but more on that later.
Exactly, yeah. We're excited just to play with these cards. You're excited to play again with these cards.
What about you?
So, yeah.
No, I'm doing handsomely. Sure. Yeah, I'm very excited to. I am, of course, prepping a lot with what do you call it when you write on a piece of paper and put it in a sleeve? Proxies. I'm playing a lot with proxies. So this isn't my first tango.
Are you doing your proxies on blank cards, or are you doing what you did with my Huyang, where you just take another card and
I'm doing my proxies with a small corner of a bit of paper that I put in, I have a card on the sleeve, any card in the sleeve, and I just put a little piece of paper saying what it is, the proxy is.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. You haven't gone to huge lengths there. No. Awesome. Okay, well, we got a really fun episode. We're going to be talking about numerous things this episode. Anything can happen, right? It's like anything can happen Thursday if you're listening to this on release day, and if you're a fan of the Big Bang Theory, they have the anything can happen Thursdays where Sheldon kind of goes out on a limb. So this is what this is. Anything can happen. You guys don't even know what's you're in for this episode, and neither do you, listener. We have a few things that we're going to be listening to. The stuff we've done this week, though, Jonah, like, you opened up the pack of the press pack that we get, the press kit.
Yes,
finally got to you in Norway, and we're super grateful for that. How was that opening experience, and how did it feel?
It was really fun. Super special to have the cards in hand a week before pre-release, but first and foremost, I just had to cram the whole Friday, make all the content I could, because I already had plans for the weekend, and I really wanted to get it out fast. But it was super fun.
Yeah, you took one for the team there.
Yeah, and of course, a great honor to be able to show you guys, and especially fun to be building a seal deck again. I think I only played maybe one sealed for Jump to Lightspeed, so it felt like just a long time ago. And I'm so excited to play more limited.
Yeah, which is crazy good. And that's actually the main topic of today. We're going to be talking about the sealed, getting us all ready for this weekend, the sealed pre-release events that we've got coming up as well. Just our tips, our in general for sealed, and also, okay, what do we think about the leaders and building tips that we have in this set as well. But Jonah, you also played with the Spotlight decks as well,
exactly.
Which was, how was that experience?
That was super fun. I made 3 videos, one showing off the kit, one building a seal deck, and then one playing as the Spotlight decks against a friend of mine. He hasn't played too much Star Wars Unlimited. He has played it a couple of times, so I guess you can see that in the video too. We're also explaining some cards, going through some mechanics. But honestly, I haven't tried all the starter decks and Spotlight decks, but this one just felt amazing to play. Like, the Maul deck is so aggressive, but still has some really cool, difficult board states to deal with for the opponent, like with Chariots. But the Qui-Gon deck can really get tons of value with the Aether Sprite that doubles when played, Kelleran Beck, bouncing him with Qui-Gon, getting in Deepa that can ambush. Like, you have so much value generation. So it's really about just controlling, trying to stop Maul from killing you, and then you really take over with all the bounce later.
That sounds a lot of fun. I know I've seen of some decks which are quite interesting and gone up against a couple of decks that have that. Like what is happening now? Whoa, hey, wait a second. We've got some new stuff. Where did these come from? So that's a really really fun one to play. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on the spotlights as well. We're going to come a bit back, especially Qui-Gon and Maul and how those leaders play a little bit later. If you want to see those videos, Jonah's put those out, that one and some sealed build out on YouTube. So if you haven't watched it, get in and watch it, and then thank us in for how well you do at your pre-release this weekend. Victor, how's your week been? Were you on last episode? I don't even know what happened last week. Were you on last week?
Yeah.
That's right. You guys talked to
Costas.
We were talking with Costas about the Norwegian PQ.
Yeah.
It was good. It was really good.
That was really good. Yes, of course. Yeah, that was because we were on the week before. But what have you done? How's your preparation going? You said you're proxying up for.
We're really going into the grind right now with our preparations for Worlds, or the Galactics, as it's called. Don't want to show up there. Don't want to go all that way and just not be prepared when I arrive.
Yeah.
So we're working on it.
Yeah, we have a good 14-hour plane ride. Flight. Yeah. Thank you. That's what planes do. They fly, of course, to prepare and distract each other from the fact you're going to be in a big long metal tube for 14 hours. So that's what you've been doing, which is great. Before we get on to our main topic, though, there's been a whole load of new stuff being talked about and released that we want to kind of address to begin with. And let's kind of take this in order a little bit. I really want to do an episode of this coming up, and actually this episode was going to be that, but then we realized actually timing wise we should be doing something different. And that is the new trilogy format that has been, I guess, released, or the rules have been talked about, or we haven't actually seen this. I really want to test it out, but this trilogy format says that you can you bring 3 decks. So it's not just one deck; it's 3 decks, and then there's a banning phase, isn't there? Like you build your 3 decks, but you can't have more than 3 of the same card in all your 3 decks. So within the card pool of all your 3 decks, you can't have more than 3 of one card. So you can't have like Force Throw in each of your decks. You can only have, if you want Force Throw in all your decks, you can have 1 in each deck. So that is the limit that you have. And then I believe there's like a banning phase coming in there. So you choose what you each ban, and then you choose a deck that you want to play against another one, and then you have to win 2 out of 3 with the decks that weren't banned. And this I really, really like, because this comes from, in my world, comes from the Keyforge Triad format, where you take 3 decks along, you ban 1, and you got to win best of 2. But with Keyforge, you had ready-made decks, and this was like one of the absolute prime formats of Keyforge. This is how you play top level Keyforge. You took your 3 best decks. You had to know decks, know what cards were good or bad. Knew just by looking at a card for 2 minutes what it could do. What the deck could do, and then make your decision. Yeah. So the skill of this is really good, but we're also in a trading card game with expensive cards.
Yeah.
So if this could work, some people, a lot of people playing this game, they can't afford 1 deck. So, but we could go with a pauper or a common and uncommon only version of this maybe, but we're going to focus on that a little bit more once we've had a chance to actually see how this can actually work and build decks, in this format. But what do you guys think of, just off the top, 30 seconds idea about how do you feel about this new format coming out, which is still very casual, but is it something you think will happen or will stick?
I think there's of course some potential for greatness, and there's a lot of potential for not so greatness in this. Like in Keyforge, obviously everyone had unique decks, so this really suited that format. This is not a very uncommon format. There are versions of this format in most trading card games, and in most trading card games, it's not a very popular format. I think because of the fact that it boils down very much to the same 3 decks. Everyone is coming with at least 2 decks. Like the way it's set up to be right now, it's kind of, it depends on what they want to do with it. If they want to have it as like a casual format, then we're going to lean into it kind of the same way we do with Twin Suns, and it might be just a lot of fun and not too much competitiveness to it. But if it's going to be a competitive format eventually, right now it's said that it's going to be a casual format. And if this is indeed going to be their version of the legacy format where there is no ban list or suspension list really, well, I can see how this could be a way to temper the strongest cards, because you can't have them in all 3 of your lists then. You can only run one Boba deck, and that deck will not be able to have the same cards as your Django deck. So you have to split up the yellow cards between them. So it's a way to kind of temper the strength of these unbanned cards. But the way metas usually shake up, if this eventually turns out to be a competitive format, it will very much be the same 2 or 3 decks that everyone is bringing, because there will be 2 or 3 decks that are definitely the strongest ones, because no ban list, so they're probably going to have to introduce a ban list after all. But maybe this is the way they want to have like a format where an eternal format where there is no rotation, but there still might have to be a ban list if you want to do this competitively.
I think I agree with a lot of both you guys' points. Personally, I think it sounds cool because you could theoretically have a higher skill ceiling, right? It could require some crazy deck building and more knowledge about matchups, metas, but it requires so much more than just one deck. Like, you're not only picking 3 decks you think are cool, they have to kind of work together, be able to beat different things. So it's probably going to be very hard to innovate on it, and therefore, as you said, maybe just lead to people playing the 3 best decks. And right now, I don't really want to play against Boba Green, Django Red, and Han Yellow with DJ. So I think suspension, if I would play it locally, I would say we'll just use the Premier suspension list for now, and let's play it. Just as a house rule kind of thing.
There's a couple of things from what you said there. Like, first of all, you've still got this rock paper scissors element of the game with aggression, mid range, and control, and so that's one way you could look at it. But then you could bring 3 different aggression decks, thinking, well, you ban the one. You ban one thing, and then you just gotta, definitely gotta win one, and then it's going to be close on the other game. So there's so many different tactics that you can play when you have these 3 areas. Like, do you go for all control or all rush, or or whatever?
And just to be clear, you have to win with both of your decks.
So you have to win 2 games. It's a best of 3 out with the last 2 decks, and so you have to win with basically both 2 of your decks. Yeah. So I believe if it's anything like before, if you lose with one of your decks, you can still play that deck against the other player's other deck. And so then when you could win against that one, and then they have to place their last deck against your last deck.
Yeah.
So if you are to win the match, you have to play with both of your unbanned decks. If that's the case, so there's a lot of skill and there's a lot of deck knowledge to be, and so there's some potential to be actually this could be a higher level of Premier play in the future. I think we're not there yet because there's still we're going into our first Galactic Championship only this year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in the future, but knowing this is there, I'm quite excited about this because I enjoyed that element of Keyforge, and it improved my stance on the game to trying to learn to judge a deck by judge a deck and judge matchups.
Yeah, and I also enjoy the fact that you could show skill with different playing styles. Like I'm not a one-trick pony player at all. Like I like to play different stuff. So that's a way of actually showing, okay, you can play different stuff and still do well.
Yeah. So you're not just a control player. You're not just a mid-range player. Actually, you do play. You can play more things.
Kind of cool.
So there's elements to it. This is so fresh though that actually we want to give this a good thing. A lot of people have given some really good first impressions of this as well, which are completely respectful, and we need to respect what they're saying. But there's also, it's still very early days, and I think I really want to test this out to say, how can this look with the card pool that we have now? Or, how could this actually do? But I need to find other people to actually play that with as well. So that could be something. That's going to be something for the future.
And just a quick side note before we go into talking more about Limited. I think I've mentioned this in a previous podcast, but with Limited, you can do a lot of fun homebrew stuff. So if you and a friend both buy a box, for instance, and you want to just play with them and have fun, you could both buy a box and play Trilogy. You both make 3 decks from your box, limited card pool, and then you play.
Yeah,
like that's a super fun way to just kind of use the format in a casual way.
And a good way to explore the box that you do have instead of just ripping open the packs.
Exactly,
doing stuff. Matthias and I did do that quite. I think for Shadows, actually, we just opened up, built sealed decks, and played against one, and then just opened 6 more packs and built another sealed deck and stuff. So, but going into that, knowing that this could be a possible format, and I remember having a conversation with Nicola about this as well, because Nicola also used to play Keyforge, and we're saying, okay, could this be a thing? But we still had the point. I think other people's feedback would be like, how then we have to have so many cards. We have to own all these cards. Like people don't have that budget. To play. So whether it fits in this, but again, the triad with Keyforge, it came from FFG as well. So this has come from the same designers, like Tyler and
Dan were both on tons of CCGs way longer than Keyforge existed.
Okay. So I'm like a teenager compared to you guys.
I think that the format, however, was particularly suited for Keyforge.
Yeah,
the way Keyforge worked, I think that this format. I understand why this format became such a big thing in Keyforge because of all the potential within the format is definitely there when everyone is playing unique decks.
I actually opened up some Keyforge decks last night because I was just going through all my stuff while packing, and I found a full box of 12 unopened decks. Sealed, and I was just like, I'm not going to sell this now. So I opened up 12 decks last night, and I was just like, oh man, I do miss that game. I'm not going back to it, but I do miss it. Let's move on to a couple of other news. We have literally just watched the meta update from FFG. It was like 15 minutes long. It wasn't that long at all. And there's no news. Moving on. Nothing is extra is suspended. Business as usual. Nothing new is suspended. Everything that was suspended is suspended. And we go on. But was there anything that have you guys both had a chance to watch it?
Yep.
Yeah, it's so very reminiscent of what happened in the meta update at the end of last set, when there were a lot of outrage in the community about a few cards that people wanted to see banned, and nothing was done because they said wait and see. And then Milan happened, and all these other
all the RQs, SQs, PQs have happened. Yeah.
Well, at least a couple of them happened without them
back
doing
then,
anything.
yes, yeah.
So they waited to do something until at least 2 of the SQs had three actually, both the European SQs and one of the American SQs happened before they actually took action. And I think they were fairly quick in taking action, but not quick enough. I think they needed to be more on top of that. This time, the community is going to react a little bit the same way, I'm afraid, because I don't think the situation is all the same. With that, in that particular case, it was one deck that got a lot of things that made that deck completely broken. In this case, the cards, the mainly one card, but maybe 2 cards that people are a bit upset about. Mainly, it's Force Throw, and to some extent, General's Blade. And I think both of those cards can definitely prove to be very problematic. But unlike the Tank and GI 2000 and what happened with Django deck, these cards slot into many different decks.
Yeah.
So even though they might have to be
some decks, what is breaking some decks is making other decks.
Yeah. And unlike with those cards in the last set, this might not, they might need to take action against these decks, but having major tournaments where Force Throw is in every deck in the top 8 will not be as problematic as having a top 8 consisting of 7 Django Tarkin Towns and 1 Piet.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I noticed, I picked up on the fact was the spread of leaders across the top 8s of all the PQs, SQs, RQs that they were talking about, where actually there's actually a okay spread of like 30% of all leaders, and that 30% of all leaders also splits up into 30% of leaders from each set of roughly have
won a PQ,
have not won a PQ, but represented in the top eight of these competitive competitions.
Yeah.
So
Shadow's a little bit overrepresented, but all sets are represented.
Yeah, all sets represented, roughly about 30% of all sets. And so that is a quite even spread. And so the meta actually looks okay in that sense, whereas actually it might be stronger in some areas of the world where we're seeing a lot more stuff. But, you know, they mentioned that Kira won. There's
Richmond.
one summon, Richmond, yeah. And that's been one of the standout leaders. So that's interesting. But they also mentioned that Data Vault has actually been very prominent as a base. To see that, and they said they liked seeing that it was so prominent. Other people might disagree that seeing so much Data Vault, but actually it's in not a bad shape. It's not perfect, but it's not a bad shape.
And I think they use the argument that the Jump to Lightspeed meta is so good and they have this amazing representation to not right now do any bans.
Yeah.
And they want to see how Legends of the Force will impact this meta and then act on it.
Yeah. And actually going into a very Force heavy set, we could see some of those bans later where Force Lightning, Force Throw is going to be a very popular card.
I doubt Force Lightning will have to be banned. It's I hope it will be good. It's a legendary. It should be good. The fact that a card that has a blanking effect has seen 0 play is so weird to me. Like blanking effects in most card games are something that is just toolbox. Like you put those kinds of effects in in most of your decks. And in this game, we have had 2 or 3 blanking effects total, and none of them see play.
No.
If Forest Lightning would remove upgrades too, it would have been amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this goes into a whole other topic in terms of, the strength of legendaries and value again as well. And I've just been going through my Flesh of Blood collection, trying to sell it and everything, and just seeing the cost of some of those cards. 120 euros that one of them is worth that I'm trying to sell against, what are we?
3 euros for a legendary.
But even Darth Vader's gone down to 50 euros. Or something like that.
40 actually.
Is it 40 now? Or something?
Like regular Vader without hyperspace or anything. It's about 40.
Yeah, which is a very interesting place to be in. And obviously it's a very different game. But that's the topic for another day. But that was the suspension list, unless anyone has some more to...
I just want to reiterate, Data Vault is a very good example of how different cards have different effects. Data Vault, in fact, diversifies the meta. The prevalence of Data Vault makes more leaders viable. You would not see a lot of those leaders in the top 8s if it wasn't for the fact that Data Vault made them viable, because aggro would have just made them not playable. So some cards make metas worse if they're really prevalent. And other cards, even though I myself would never play Data Vault just because I'm allergic to the fact of having more cards in my deck than I need to, but I think it's a good card for the meta. I think it did good things.
I think Data Vault is great because it gives confidence. I don't know if it actually makes the decks that much better into aggro, but it gives people confidence to play them. They think, now I'm better suited. I think if you
having a lot of Sabine into Data Vault, I can confirm that it is a lot harder to play against Data Vault.
But that's the thing. I know we've talked about this in previous episodes, but how can 3 extra health points feel so far away?
Yeah, no,
when you're on 20 and going up, you thought, okay, I only got 10 to go, we can start pushing again. Okay, no, we've got 13 to go. It makes so much difference. And it's incredible. And I also love the fact of building a deck with Data Vault because you don't need to cut so much.
That's the worst reason to play Data Vault.
I know.
Listeners, close your ears.
That hurts. It hurts to hear people.
But then there is a reason I have done 0 tech decks on our channel so far. I am doing the thumbnails. I am not doing the tech decks because this type of advice is what you'd get if I did a tech deck. I'm leaving it to these professionals.
You and Yehosera.
Oh, yeah.
I let other people build my decks, and there is no shame in that whatsoever, as long as I don't take the credit for them, which I probably will. Cool. Should we move on to one more thing? There was an article out that Tyler put out, which seemed a bit related. We don't need to go too much into that as well, but it seemed like it was written before Jump to Lightspeed came out. I don't know, but it was summing up 2024 as well. But just for time purposes as well, to get onto the other stuff, as fun as this conversation has been, we can't go without mentioning that the SWU Open 2 in Malmö Game Week tickets are on sale. So get in and book them and come and say hi and come and meet us. The prize support on this is incredible. They are preparing for 256 players. They are planning for that. There's people that's been talking about coming in from Estonia, coming from the Netherlands, I've seen, Spain, as well as coming in from Spain, UK. We're trying to get people over for as well, trying to convince people to come over because they're on the fence about it. This is going to be a really, really big tournament. Those of you who came to Malmö Game Week last year, we were at a venue which was still pretty big. This year they're going for Malmö Mässan, which is a even bigger venue. And we're going to be streaming. We're going to be casting on there. huge convention hall. It's gonna be absolutely ginormous. So we're going to be there. We're going to be casting. I'm going to be casting the full thing. Both of you are going to be helping me cast in some way or form. We're kind of teaming up, Manual Game Week, they're teaming up with Fanfinity and Asmodee and everything. The prizes are, I mean, we're talking about 10,000 crowns worth of, or 10,000 euros, 10,000 crowns worth of prize, 10,000 euros worth of pricing as well. The winner is going to go home very happy.
Oh yeah,
and even further, but that prize I'm not sure has actually been released yet. But there was one of the top prizes has not been released yet, but it's looking to be quite a fun one.
Yeah, and not only is it top heavy, but there will be a lot of goodies you can get either way just by participating. And we're also working on a custom playmat for everyone, which is going to be nice.
Yeah, that's going to be nice. Everyone gets a custom exclusive playmat, not an FFG custom exclusive, a Nordic Takedown and Malmo Game Week exclusive event only playmat. And it's going to, if you like the ones we've done before, this one's free and it's going to be sweet.
Oh yeah,
I think that's probably the best participation prize you can have for a tournament. Something unique that you can use over and over again, and remember all the fun you had at the tournament. I think that's an amazing participation prize.
Yeah. So that is happening last weekend of August. Book your tickets, get involved, and we really hope to see you there. Like I normally ask my wife if it's okay if I go to these things. This one I told her that I'm doing this. This is how important it is to us, and important it is to me as well. So
it's kind of what kickstarted really the momentum on the channel and podcast for us, right?
Yeah, it really did. And I said many times before, this is where we discovered Victor. He was hiding out in a little corner with his cards there as well. I was like, you'll come and give us a hand. And then we suddenly get this big sports presenter coming on, like it was almost calling a horse race. There we go. That is happening. But what else is happening, boys? This weekend.
Let's
on
go.
Friday,
34-minute intro,
Sunday,
over
Monday,
pre-release. Let's go.
Yo, man, you are getting your money's worth today. Pre-release happening this weekend. What can we expect? How are you both going to be taking your pre-releases? How many pre-releases are you guys signed up for? Victor, you normally do about 5.
So I'm doing the regular 4.
Oh, you let us down, man.
No, I don't think I ever done 5. I usually do 4.
Yeah.
So I do 2 in Stockholm and 1 here in Uppsala and 1 in Västerås.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll be sadly going on vacation on Saturday, but I will have time for the one on Friday. And then when I come back, I will, of course, attend all the locals to still play some Sealed here and there to kind of recoup from my missed pre-releases.
Yeah. I mean, how dare you go on holiday during Yeah. Awesome. I'm just going to be doing the Malachorsk one. Which I would be loving to do. I would have tried to get to the Vekwa one because that's going to be like also a local store for me coming up. But they only had 8 pre-release packs, but I think that's a big step up from what they had before. Nice. So they're hopefully some stuff starting up there at Nexus Games. So hopefully that will continue there as well. But yep. That's what we're doing. What are we doing for thing? If you haven't done a seal before, where have you been?
First of all,
but sorry, Jonah.
No. First of all, where have you been?
Where have you been? Why haven't you done a sealed yet? No. If this is your first pre-release sealed, this is what you need to know. And it could be that some of you are coming into this game. You've just been introduced to the game. What is going to happen is you pay for your entrance. You get given a box. In that box are 6 booster packs, 2 leader packs, a deck box, and tokens, and a very small rule book. What you will do is then have, when they say that you start, they'll introduce and say the rules, how they're doing it, how many rounds. Then you will have about 35 minutes, I think, to... it might be different. Some of the shops, depending on their schedule, might give a slightly different time. But roughly about 30 to 35 minutes to open your packs and build your deck. And so you can use... your card pool is anything within those decks, plus the 2 extra leaders that you will get in the box, which are hyperspace versions of Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn from this set, which are the showcase, the spotlight decks leaders as well. So that is going to be happening. Then you build your deck, minimum 30 cards. You can use any color base, 30 health base, plus the bases that you get in your card pool.
No, you can't use 30-point bases. In this set, there are no 30-point bases.
Oh, I did not know that. This is why you're here, Victor.
In
many other reasons as well.
In this set, you can use any common base of the set. And in this set, and in this set, the common bases are 28 point health.
Yeah. And they're the ones that say if you fight with a force unit, the force is with you.
Yeah.
We're going to get into the set specifics in just a second. You build your deck, 30 cards, plus any of those common bases, or rare bases if you pick up a rare base, if you're lucky to get those in your pack. 30 cards out of the packs, you sleeve them up and you get to go. Minimum 30 cards. If you can't decide, it's okay to go with 50.
Also, there is no restriction as to how many copies of a certain card you can play in this format. So if you, for some reason, open 4 or 5 copies of a card and you really like that card, you can put all 4 or 5 of those in your deck.
Exactly. So going on to those that thing. General tips for a sealed. What would give us some tips? What do people want to do? Whether they've done a sealed, haven't done a sealed, or maybe suck at sealed, like me. What do we do?
Yes, before we do the tips, I'd like a very common scenario for people not having tried a pre-release is that you might have had a bad taste in your mouth from some other CCGs that you've played where you have not liked the sealed format. And that's all right, even though I think in most CCGs playing a pre-release sealed is kind of fun. For Star Wars, the sealed format is actually very well balanced, or it has been in all sets except for set 3 where it wasn't that well balanced, but almost all sets have been extremely well balanced for sealed or any limited format really. And I think a couple of things about, like we were all kind of mentioning earlier that the strength levels of legendaries are quite weak compared to many other CCGs, whereas the strongest cards in this card game are often found on the uncommon slot, which is quite rare actually. That's not common and that's not usually the case in CCGs, but it means that you get to play decks that work quite well in sealed compared to other. Obviously they're not premier decks, but they work quite well and they're really fun to play. So if you have for some reason had a bad taste in your mouth and refrained from going to pre-releases for that reason, don't come. It's so much fun. Like sealed and limited formats in Star Wars Unlimited is really good. They're really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Drafting is still my favorite format here, but sealed, getting the opportunity, doing sealed early on in a set is an amazing way. Like we said earlier, buying a box between, friends, playing some sealed just to get some stuff out there to see what possibility, explore some combos. There we go. Jonah, what do you think?
Confused, Victor, because you said the best cards are uncommon, but then you said that's quite rare. That's not common.
So what are they? Are they?
They're not.
No, they're not common.
They're rare.
They're not rare. They're uncommon.
Okay.
They're not even legendary.
No pun intended, as they say.
Too many puns. Yeah, but I really agree with you guys. But should we move on to the tips, or?
Yeah, exactly. So sort your cards is the first one that we have there. Like, very simple. Like, you have like your
5
colored
piles, 5 columns,
five
with 3 rows in
columns
each
of your main aspects, your colored aspects plus your non-colored aspects.
Yeah.
And then you do rows. I think Jonah did this one in the video where you have rows of, heroic, just
neutral,
plain neutral, and
villainy.
Yeah.
Villainy. And this is actually very important. Usually you get a fairly even spread of the colors, so you can usually go with either color just from the density, but the density might be very different between villainy and heroic. So if you sort your cards this way, you can just by a glance of an eye see where your densities lie.
Yeah.
So if I want to go red, I have to go villainy, or if I want to go green, I might want to look at heroic. And that's just like a very good way to sort the cards that way when you open the packs, because you get so much information just from looking at the cards that way.
And in my opinion, if you get some restrictions, it's actually very good for you, because then you can spend more time on the decisions that are further down. And if you see, okay, I got tons of red cards, almost no blue cards, then first of all, that leads you towards red, but it also gives you more options, and probably means you can play higher quality cards.
Yeah. No, so you need to have an idea of that, and then combo that with what leaders you have at your disposal. So you're always going to have, now you could open duplets of the same leader, of course.
Yeah.
So you're often going to have 8 leaders to choose from, but of course that might not always be the case.
Yeah.
And you might not have an even spread of villainy and heroic leaders. You might have only villainy, and then your only heroic option is
Qui-Gon Jinn.
is Qui-Gon Jinn. But then your card pool might be weighted more towards heroic cards, and so that is a tougher sealed pool, but it's not impossible.
No, yeah, you just have to look at it. But just sorting your cards is a very good opening tip.
Yeah.
And then once you're starting to investigate what color combinations could be interesting, the next thing to look for there is what would the curve look like in this color combination, and
what do we mean by the
exactly curve? When we talk about curve, we mean cost curve. It's that you need more cards that cost 2 than you need that cost 5, but you do still need cards that cost 5, 6, and whatnot. Most limited games will take a little bit more turns they will take more turns to play a limited game than it would in Premier usually. So expect that, because all decks are mid-range. when you build a limited deck, it's basically always going to be some kind of mid-range, because you can't really go that fast and you can't really control that well. So you're going to have to do a little bit of everything. So that means that you need to be able to play things on your 6 resource, your 7 resource, and possibly your 8 resource as well. But you definitely need a lot more cards for 2 cost and 3 cost. Your deck should be at least 1/3 of your deck should be 2 costed, or 2 or 3 costed. You probably want even more. Like if half your deck is 2 and 3, that's probably still good. That's probably not a bad idea.
And the reason for this, for those of you who say, "Hey, what is the point here?" is that obviously the curve of your resources as you go up, you don't want to be left without your 2-drops and your if you sometimes you won't get a 2-drop, but if you can't get a 2-drop or a 3-drop, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be behind, especially if your opponent can get out two units more than you, even 3 units more than you, and they're starting to attack your base before you can do anything, and respond.
And when you get to your 4 resource turn, you've drawn a lot of more cards. So the 4 cost a turn is not going to be as problematic. And for your 4 cost turn, you could very well play 2 drops. So when you get to your 5 and 6 drop, you probably have had the time to draw into your 5 or 6 costed units, because you only have 30 cards in your deck and you draw 2 cards every turn. You're going to see those late cards even though you don't have that many of them. But if you don't see your opening cards, you're kind of screwed.
Yes. So basically the sequencing here goes: sort your cards, look at what colors look strong, and then you have to assess in the curves, find enough 2-drops, look at your leaders, and when you've done that selection and you're laying out the whole deck and cutting down to maybe 30, then also keep in mind what the curve looks like.
And you can actually fill out your curve with out of aspect cards. Some bomb cards are worth playing out of aspect in sealed because of how the curve works in this and how you're probably going to last a bit longer. It's definitely possible to play some cards that have huge impact and pay 2 extra for them. So don't sleep on that.
Yeah. Right. So then should we maybe move on to a bit what to expect in this set?
Yeah. I think the curve with this set, because obviously we're talking different common bases, which are force heavy. You'll have cards that will need to use the force. Now, the force function in this set is that cards will either give you the force or effects will, or you have to use the force to make your effect stronger, or that card stronger. And that is going to be another token. I think you get a card which is for the force, which you put on the board or off the board to say the force is with you. And so these common bases will say, if a force unit attacks this turn, the force is with you. And so you can take your force token. So you can't stack your force token. So you have to spend it, and then you can use it to get the force back. So the force is with you. You use the force. The force is with you. You use the force. I'm sounding like Chirrut now.
It's basically a currency, a secondary currency that you can only ever have one of. And either you have it and then you can spend it. And once you have spent it, you can get it back.
Yeah. And this is another reason to go to your pre-releases, because I do think stores will get a really cool force token to give out that's double-sided, where one shows you have it and one shows you don't, like we have had the initiative tokens from previous sets. So that's at least been in the promo art. So I really hope we need to get that.
That's new to me. That's a lot of fun. I'd love that. Cool. So that's one thing to think about with your curve. How you're going to be doing that? Can you get the force early on enough if you got something to do that, so you have the ability to use it? How easy is it you're going to get that force to be able to use the big cards at the end that need it, etc., etc., etc. But the biggest thing that we have to consider now is what leaders we are going to pick, because there are good leaders in the set and there are bad leaders in the set. There are also good leaders in sealed and draft, good sealers for limited, and bad leaders for limited.
Yeah,
but they're not necessarily both.
Yeah,
you could be good in one and not good in the other. What do you guys think are some good leaders in this set, as an example?
To begin with, you should build your deck first. Obviously, if it's all the same, you pick the better leader, but the deck comes first. Like, a really good leader will not be able to perform well with a bad deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is the first time I've ever heard that. Hence why I suck at my pre-releases.
I think when you're assessing what leaders you prefer, the deploy cost is very relevant.
Yeah.
5 and 6 is usually preferred. If you're on 7, then it's probably not strong enough.
Hard to do.
Also, you need to look at the abilities. If they're very combo oriented, they're very like care about a specific trait, or you need some specific cards for them to really work, then they're usually not good in limited. Some examples here could be Kylo Ren, which needs a lot of upgrades, or
Eva Chris can be really hard to play in this format.
yes,
I think
it wants to spend the Force a lot so you can deploy her earlier, but that's gonna be tough in limited. Rey wants a lot of non-unit Force cards, so it's gonna maybe not be the easiest to get that ping going.
Whereas Offie needs too many. You need to have a lot of events to make her work, and you don't
usually
play
not
too
good.
many events.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Kanan Jarrus, I think, is somewhere in the middle because it only really works with shield or spectre units, and you're not going to have a huge amount of specters and creatures. There are a few creatures here,
actually,
which is what you had in your pool because you
exactly
nearly went with Kanan because you had some good creatures. However, that's one of those borderline ones where I think, if your card pool allows it, you take the chance.
Yeah, I feel like Kanan could be maybe an outlier here because there are so many creatures at the common slot, and that's very crucial. We're going to get to that later. Like, powerful commons is sometimes what carries your deck because you'll see many of them. But yeah, I do think Kanan could work. But yeah, he is kind of a tribal leader that really wants.
I think it's going to be hard to make him work. Like I remember people trying to make Luke work in the first pre-release in the sword, and he didn't even need tribal, but just paying one to give a shield is very different from paying one and giving an experience. Shields are good but they're much better in Premier than they are in Sealed.
And the fact is that Snoke and Obi-Wan, they don't even need to pay one. They just use the Force to give experience.
Yeah.
Snoke does. Snoke needs to pay one.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, but I think with Snoke, that's huge. Like, that's really good. Yeah. Because the way he works, he can always give an experience token for one, which is a good way to fill out your curve. We saw in set 1 how amazing Tarkin was in Sealed. Tarkin was one of the very, very best leaders in Sealed. Of course, to some extent, because overwhelming barrage. But also the ability to make a 2-cost actually a 3-cost and work well was really important. And he was a tribal leader, so he could only do it on Imperial units, but there were tons of Imperial in that set.
I mean, is it the Rebel or Imperial, really?
Yeah. So Supreme Leader Snoke doesn't care about any trait.
Yeah.
He can always do it to the highest powered unit. So I think Snoke is probably going to be quite good in Sealed.
Yeah.
I don't think it's very good for Premier, but I think it's going to be really good in Sealed.
Yeah, agreed. So lastly, I think we should say probably stay away from Revan and Anakin Skywalker since they only have one aspect.
Yeah.
But
and there are things that it's quite difficult to come off of, like for example, in this set, maybe the villainy events aren't as effective for Anakin as, for example, Overwhelming Barrage would be in Premier format.
Yeah. But then moving on to some leaders we actually like. There's one thing I want to comment on, and that's Cal Kestis. He's the only leader that deploys on 4, right?
Yeah.
And I do think the 3-4 stats are not the strongest in Premier because it's quite weak to different events and so forth, like open fire. But I actually got this tip from Alan in Oslo. He played it with a new common card in this set that's called Ascension Cable. It's a 2-cost upgrade that gives +1/+3. It's yellow, so you can play it on Cal. And having kind of a 4/7 with Saboteur that exhausts opponent's unit is crazy. Like the fact that you could just strike base every turn, exhaust the unit, it's kind of like Django is back. So I think don't underestimate Cal, even though his stats are so weak, because if you get him out early, you have something to protect him, either Sentinels or in this case an upgrade. I think he can be quite cool.
Yeah, I think Cal is definitely one of the leaders which is hard to assess before you try it.
Yeah.
But with the right pool, he can probably be really strong. We've seen, like, historically, the 4-flip leaders haven't been extremely good in sealed. They've just been a little bit too weak. Even Sabine wasn't very good in sealed. So historically, the 4-flip is a little bit of a red flag, but Cal has some potential to him.
And I think he has this potential because, like, the decks that you will build are not perfect. None of the decks that you build are perfect. None of the decks you face will be perfect. So, flipping on 4, you won't get a open fire. You won't get takedown or anything like that to deal with that on your flip turn. So there's more chance of things like that surviving and actually taking effect there. You might be unlucky. They might have an answer for it, but it's less likely they'll have an answer for it in this format.
There are a few common cards that answer him cleanly, which is, I guess, problematic. But yes, I agree.
Yeah. But going into these removal and stuff, or I guess bombs. What bombs do we have in this set?
Before we leave the leaders, I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention the kind of consensus strongest leader. Like, I don't think I've heard anyone talk about sealed for this set without talking about Mother Talzin. She has the potential to be this set's Anakin Skywalker. Her ability is just incredibly strong, and then on top of that, she flips on 5, and she has the very best stats on 5 in this set. A 3/7 with a very relevant ability that is probably going to be quite easy to use a lot. I think Mother Talzin is the strongest leader for sealed here, with a little bit of a bubbler come with the Grand Inquisitor having a similar ability to trade up. Could be strong. Just a little bit weaker statted, so he might not be as relevant as Mother Talzin, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that.
It's kind of like Jyn Erso in set 1, which also proved to be one of the strongest.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right. Bombs. What bombs that we have coming into the set? What cards are like just must uses, or cards to build your deck around? I guess.
Talzin's Assassin. That's a common card.
Yeah.
Talzin's Assassin is a 4-drop 4/4 with a when played that gives a unit -3/-3.
That's a use the force, isn't it? Give -3.
Yeah.
So that's essentially a 2-for-1.
Yeah, that's a 2-for-1. Yeah, it's just crazy good.
Yeah.
That's a common slot.
Yeah, so you likely gonna see one of those.
I think we also have in Heroism blue we have Iterant Warrior.
Yeah,
which is a card that's seen a lot of theory crafting in Premiere, and just being a 4/4 shielded is nice, but having the upside to be able to heal 3 is also nice.
Extremely relevant in sealed.
Another thing that I've seen is just looking at the cards that have either only heroism or only villainy in the common slot, because we have 6 cards in each of those aspects. And for heroism, I especially like the space units. There are 3 space units, a 4 cost, 5 cost, and 6 cost. But the 5 and 6 cost are especially good, I think. 5 cost 5/5 with raid 1, and a 6 cost 6/6 with restore 1.
Yeah, I think the long beam cruiser at 6 for a 6/6 for 6 with restore 1 is really, really good. I don't think there are a lot of answers for that huge space unit in this set, and unlike in Premiere where you need on play effects for 6 cost units, that's not as relevant. I mean, it's super relevant, but it's not as necessary in sealed, because it's very likely that it will be another turn after the sex cost turn, and you'll be able to use it then. So for the grindiness of these kinds of game, I think Longbeam Cruiser is just exactly what you need. It's going to be hard for your opponent to answer. It's going to hit like a truck, and it's going to restore a little bit. I think that's a really good card.
That's what you want from bombs, right? You want big cards that, if not answered, are gonna win you the game. And I do remember back to set 2 where there was a 5-cost 5/6, I think, in space.
Yep.
And just playing a lot of those won me games.
Yeah, the red
exactly
transport.
Red heroism.
I love that. I played it out of aspect sometimes because it was just really, really good.
So these are common cards, so that's something that kind of attracts me a bit to heroism. But it's worth mentioning, in limited, space is more difficult to deal with, but there will be some cards that can deal with them. I just saw, for instance, the Purgil cards, right? They are space units, even though they're not vehicles.
Yep, and they're common.
Yeah, so maybe that could be a line.
Yeah, but even like a Graceful Purgil with Sentinel, it can only take 2 hits from either of those 2 units, and it only returns with 2 damage. So it's not a clean answer in any way. It is going to be hard to deal with those sort of things. I think the uncommon cards are usually where you look for the really, really strong cards, whereas the common cards is where the meat of the deck is. So you need to find really good commons, but then of course you will have some bombs usually in the uncommon, or sometimes the rare slot.
Yeah. If you have watched any of our recent deck techs, we have talked about Chirrut many times. We've talked about the Mace Windu. So there are some really, really great uncommon bombs.
Yeah, for sure.
And those cards were just...
Keller and Beck is uncommon. That's just a huge bomb. Like being able to play a 7-cost 7/7 and then get another unit on the go.
And cards like that are enough to like tip the scale if you're not sure which way to go.
Yeah.
It's worth going it for these big things, because if you can get these out, you don't know if your opponent, it's very unlikely they'll have the answer for it.
And with a 30-card deck, you're way more likely to see them.
Very much so.
Exactly, yeah. If I can give one piece of advice, have we got any more cards? Because I've got one piece of advice for those people who don't have the experience that they wanted to pre-release. So let's say maybe you've just lost your first 2 games. Don't be afraid to make a deck with the other half of your sealed pool and just go with that. Because then you are going to experience the set, experience the game. And actually, my last pre-release, I did just that. I went with the Thrawn because I thought 6 when defeated was enough. I didn't have a very good top end of my curve. And then I actually went for a Poe Yellow for the last 3 games, and ended up going 3-2 from a 0-2 space, because I went with something that I just, was the rest of my sealed pool. I sleeved it up, ready to go, and I just switched out when it was time. And I found I learned something new from that experience, which is kind of what you want to do with sealed. Yes, there's places have prizing, but the whole thing of sealed, this type of stuff, is have fun, explore the set, and enjoy the community that you're in.
Yeah, and you will often find yourself in the deck building process where you have 2 great options. You can see the potential of your pool. You can go 2 directions, and then don't be scared to change stuff, because you are allowed to use your whole seal pool and change them in between the games. And if you want to see more of a sealed deck building process could look like, check out the video I made on YouTube, where I had this really tough decision in the end.
A really nice thing about pre-release events is the fact that everyone's opening packs. So this is a really good place to trade cards with other people. And that's definitely something I can encourage, but don't do it before you finish the games, because you cannot trade cards while you're playing with your cards. Your sealed pool, even those that you didn't use in the deck, that is your sideboard. So those are the cards that you can switch between games. So you can't do any trades with them before the event ends.
Despite it being a trading card game.
Yeah.
Trade under the right circumstances.
Awesome. Well, I think that's what we got time for tonight. We try not to go too far over the hour mark, so we're going to call this a night now.
Yeah.
But basically, good luck this weekend, and enjoy yourself, and share your experience with us. If you had a good experience, something that really worked, stumbled across a combo that you thought was good, we want to hear about it. And the rest of the community that we want to hear about it as well. Like, our Discord is growing daily, and so there are a lot of people who are there to share this kind of stuff. So we are very, very excited.
Don't forget to post your polls in our Discord. Like, if you pull cool things,
we have got a channel.
There's a special channel for it. And also, like, interact with us on our Discord. Definitely do that. We love to have you, but you can also interact with us at these pre-release events. Like I said, I'm going to 4 of them. Please come up and say hi. I just love engaging with the community.
We do too, by the way. It's just the first person to say it. All right, guys. I mean, that's the best part of doing this. We're going to call it a night. Jonah clearly wants to go and get some sleep.
Gonna get that shut-eye.
I know, man. But thank you for listening. May the force be with you, and good night. See you again next time.
Bye-bye.